Welcome everyone to the special board meeting of the Sunrise School Division on February 23rd. My name is Paul Mangya. I'm the board chair, and welcome to the people that are listening online. I'm going to call our meeting to order, and we're going to have O Canada sang by Oakbank Elementary. Please stand if you can do so. You're going to look at me. That's very nice. Thanks to Oakbank Elementary for going ahead and doing that. We have a treaty acknowledgement, and I'm going to go ahead and read that out. We acknowledge the traditional land upon which Sunrise School Division resides as Treaty 1 territory. We honor our partnership with Canada's original peoples and respect the gifts of Indigenous history, culture, and language. We commit to moving forward in a partnership with our communities in a spirit of collaboration and reconciliation. We have an adoption of agenda, so could be it resolved that the board approve the agenda. And a mover and a seconder, moved by trustee Boytson, seconded by trustee Dent. Any questions to it? None, so can I just get a hand raise, or I just go around the table? Trustee Rowan, yes. Trustee Rowland, yes. Trustee Reed, yes. Trustee Smith, yes. Trustee Dent, yes. Trustee Nicol, yes. Trustee Boytson, yes. Trustee Harris, yes. And trustee Mangya, yes. Thank you. Very quickly, board chair's comments. I do, before we get into our budget presentation, I do want to congratulate Trustee Boytson for retiring yesterday from, I won't name out because I don't know exactly how many years, but you spent a lot of time working with the provincial government, and congratulations on a career. And do you know what, I'm sure you'll sorely be missed, but kudos to you. Congratulations to you. We have a budget presentation, and so I'm going to turn the budget presentation over to, before we go, we have a full slate of our 9 trustees here in the building if you're online with us. We also have Superintendent Timko, our Secretary Treasurer Thiessen, Assistant Superintendent Fielberg. We have board support Stacy Bonato, and we do have one member with us from the public. And hopefully I don't get this wrong, Kathy. It's Kathy. I don't have Kathy last name. Majowski. Kathy Majowski, and Kathy Majowski is here basically representing the NDP party, right? Okay, so that's who's here with us. If you can't see online, that's who here is with us. So I'm going to turn that over to Jody. Jody, floor is yours.
Great. Thank you, everybody, and thank you everyone attending and watching from home and in our gallery tonight. So we're going to go through the draft budget. What we wanted to do is kind of take everybody through what it looks like a day in the life of a Sunrise student. We'll start off. So our agenda for tonight, we're going to have we did our introductions already, but we'll go through the divisional overview, the priorities, a day in the life of the student, the draft budget, summary, and the board, what they're going to do moving forward. And we'll finish off with some questions. I'll watch for questions in my emails if anything should come up, and if anybody has other questions. So we've gone through the introductions. we'll move on from there. The Sunrise Vision Statement. Every student will have the opportunity to experience the joy of learning in the Sunrise School Division in order to be better prepared for the future with the knowledge, skills, and values to achieve their own personal life goals. So keeping this all in mind while preparing the budget. Some facts about the Sunrise School Division. The school division operates 23 schools in Northeast Man area. It includes 3 public schools, 6 colony schools, and 4 adult learning centers. Our overall projected enrollment for 23-24 is about 4,786 students, with about it's about 100 students above last year's projections. So we definitely recognize that there's an enrollment growth in the community, in the Sunrise community. The school division has our priorities set within this budget. Our priorities, our challenge here in the 23-24 budget is in the midst of continuing significant challenges for the education in Manitoba. We see increasing costs due to economic and post-pandemic factors creates constraints to continuing to deliver high-quality education while respecting the parameters of public funding. So some of the core priorities in Sunrise include a focus on maintaining manageable class sizes, opportunities for students to continue quality programming, supports for students with exceptional needs, as well as engaging with our communities to identify the community's needs as well. We've also attended, in that essence, we've attended Eastman forums with our neighboring municipalities to discuss their priorities and understand what's going on in their communities. It's definitely it's been identified in our relationship with the municipalities. Other priorities, putting the government funding and taxpayer dollars to good use. Sunrise has focused on ensuring the best possible outcomes for students by investing in classroom and specialty teachers, ensuring appropriate student supports in clinical staffing and mental health support, providing educational assistants who support and enhance in-class learning, as well as maintaining program leader support and curriculum implementation and instructional practices. So a typical day begins for our students. Approximately 80% of our 4,790 students begin the day by getting on the bus. We have 91 bus routes to ride to school. Sunrise buses travel approximately 2.79 million kilometers per year, including regular runs, all our field trips, and extracurricular and sports trips. Students' safety is a top priority for this reason. Sunrise operates a full-service repair facility. The division also rotates and retires equipment on a regular schedule. So our transportation department that maintains all these buses, we allocate about $5.8 million to transporting pupils to and from school in the division, which is up from a 5.4 budget from the 22-23 year. The increases are primarily related to the fuel price increases that we're seeing. We're also seeing supply cost inflation and a wage equity. What we are seeing in the transportation department, repair for our buses, the tires for our buses, the inflation impact is more greater in this area than some other areas of our budget. Sunrise spends substantially more than other divisions on transporting pupils due to our large geographic area. One of the most notable challenges is faced by our division. When our students arrive at the school, they're greeted by the staff and they prepare to start the school day at one of the 23 facilities. Sunrise manages, cleans, and maintains and repairs over 850,000 square feet of facilities across the division. We also maintain parking lots, play structures, and school grounds. Our maintenance department manages all facility-related capital projects across the division. The Sunrise 5-year capital is submitted to the province annually and is available on the division website. So our maintenance department budget is looking at approximately $7.2 million. which is up from the 6.97 million from last year. The operating costs for heat as well as insurance have been increasing steadily, which places additional pressures on maintaining the status quo budget that we aim for. The department is obtaining Energy Manitoba grants to continue with the LED lighting upgrades where possible to reduce the future hydro operating costs. The school day for our students, Sunrise employs approximately 381 teachers. We value maintaining manageable student-to-teacher ratios and appropriate class sizes to support student learning and achievement. The board cares that all students have equitable access to the necessary materials required to be successful. The Sunrise Purchasing Department ensures optimal pricing for curriculum material and supplies used in classrooms. Other items used in classrooms is, of course, technology. It is a key component of our education system. We strive to provide the best experience for students by maintaining current hardware inventories and embracing new technologies. Sunrise rotates computer hardware replacement on a 5-year schedule. However, classroom technologies such as projectors and smart boards do not have rotational replacement schedule. Investment in this area is required to keep our equipment current and relevant. So our regular instruction department, what we see here is one of our largest functions of our budget, about $40 million. Regular instruction does make up the biggest increase across all the departments, approximately $1.08 million. And the increase is largely due to supply cost inflation, anticipated wage equity costs, and the intention is to add 2 additional teachers. We have increased funding for middle years instructional arts and home ec supplies, as well as additional support staff at some designated sites. So regular instruction expenditures also include our class ICT resources used by our students and staff. There's another function that's big in our division. It's our support staff. So supporting our students, all students have contact with student services personnel. These are guidance counselors, resource teachers, psychologists, occupational therapists, physical therapists, social workers, mental health workers, speech language pathologists, and educational assistants. Our support staff work alongside classroom teachers and with families to support student learning and achievement. In this area, this is another large function of our budget. Sunrise, we're projecting an increased cost of the student support services. Again, it's largely due to staff anticipated wage equity costs and additional support staff at the designated sites. Sunrise values our ability to meet each student where they are at and move them forward on their learning journey. Another function with all our student learning is our administration. Our administration to support and direct frontline staff. Sunrise administration leads the work in schools, curriculum implementation, student services, human resources, finance, and technology departments. Administrative costs are subject to a cap as directed by the province. This ensures efficiency and accountability regarding costs. Included in administration costs are our trustee costs, senior administration, finance, human resources, technology, and associated staffing and supplies, as well as our overall general liability insurance. In this function, we see a total of a $2.2 million budget. We do try and continue to find efficiencies to ensure we comply with provincial directives. Increases for the current budget in this function are once again resulted from the anticipated wage equity costs. Liability insurance, as noted before, is another growing increase, as well as our professional memberships, which are also increasing. The purchase department also works with the finance and the other school division and other school divisions to secure preferential pricing and reduce cost on goods and services where we can purchase by volume bulk buying. Our next area where students go to school, of course, they're going to receive instructional support. So Sunrise values divisional support to strengthen instructional strategies, using to improve student learning and success in literacy, numeracy, active learning, languages, and music. 4.25 FTE program leaders work with teachers on high-quality, responsive teaching and the use of relevant data to inform their practice towards success on student learning outcomes. The division also has a 0.6 FTE career development teacher who supports all schools in Sunrise. Additional areas of instructional support include our library staff, teaching materials, and professional development opportunities. The function of instructional support, the budget is about $1.6 million. There is about an increase, about $12,000. The increase is a moderate increase, and it's related to expenses related to salaries and benefits. The other function that we see is adult learning and community education, functions 300 and 400. What these are is both the Adult Learning Center and community education and services are funded by separate categorical grants. Adult learning is funded by the province of Manitoba from the Advanced Education, Skills and Immigration Department, and our community education and services are programs undertaken by the division related to preparation for the pre-kindergarten students and is also funded from the province. Increases in both areas are anticipated to be related to wage equity costs. So from the last, we received funding from the province. There was a funding announcement early February, and the province raised the formula guarantee from 98 to 100%, which generated about $594,806, but applied an equalization formula which actually reduced funding by $850,000. Even with the increased enrollment that we anticipate, and we did expect in the 22-23 budget or fiscal year, we recognize overall Sunrise only received about $367,000 for increased funding from the province, which put a real restriction on what areas can we support in our budget. So a little bit of a breakdown on our budget overview of funding from the province. So as noted in the prior slide, we talked about provincial funding has changed in certain areas, and the following areas we saw increases by the province. We did receive an increase in base support and categorical support. We also received additional operating support, an increase in our property tax offset grant, as well as the formula guarantee funding. What we did see though, we did see a decrease in other areas of provincial funding. They decreased our equalization support by $850,000. They also reduced our education property tax credit by $943,000. With those impacts from the provincial funding and inflationary pressures on resource inputs like fuel and insurance, combined with substantial payroll cost increases, which will continue to present challenges to the school division and divisions across the province. Sunrise is proposing at this time a budget increase of about $2.4 million, or about a 3.3%. The vast majority of these increases are related to the salaries and inflationary increases as noted in the prior slides. As a result, the overall deficit that the budget is looking at is about $313,953. When we break down what the overall increases are looking at, we see insurance is roughly going up by 7%. We see inflationary impact on services, goods, property tax, and utilities like sewer and water, hydro, natural gas. We see about approximately 10% increase to the budget. As noted, transportation for the transportation costs in primarily our fuel is up by about 18%, We also see, as many folks out there see, their line of credit increases. As the interest rate increases, we're seeing an interest rate cost to the division about 19% higher. And of course, as noted earlier, salary and benefits make up the rest of the increase, about 46%. Sunrise does also propose an additional 2 teaching staff to address increased enrollment to maintain that minimal large class size. Overall, our summary here, the changes in the provincial funding required the division to raise the special municipal levy back to the 2020 levels. This would provide the school division with an additional $1 million of municipal revenues. The board received many requests, and the requests I outlined out here is additional support in a couple areas. A request for about 5.2 FTE or full-time equivalency of additional EAs. We also have a 1.0 FTE of an additional secretary time. We also have a 1.0 FTE of additional software support staff, as well as a 0.5 additional clinician. And there was a request for 6 additional buses, or not new buses to the fleet, at least 6 to continue with a replacement renewal program. There was also a request to have HR recruitment provisions to assist with our continuing hiring of support of spare teachers, spare EAs, spare bus drivers. So trying to beef up our HR recruitment department to help us fill those vacancies. With no additional dollars, the above requests or above budget requests could not be accommodated. The board did have an objective to keep services and service delivery the same as the prior budget year. With the impact of the changing of the mill rate, what we're going to see is Sunrise will reduce the mill rate for the 2020 tax year as a result of increasing property values. The mill rate should be reducing from 13.311 to 11.5. The total portion assessment for Sunrise did increase by 16%, and the mill rate's going to be dropping by 13%. So what does that look like on a property tax bill? So if an individual or a property owner has a home that's valued at $250,000, they will see a decrease in their property tax bill of about $201. There's an assumption the assessment values remain unchanged from the prior year. What that really means is in the event that you haven't seen any changes in the assessment of your property, it's the same from one year to the next, you should see a decrease in your property tax. If you purchased or built an addition onto your home, that would be a difference. You're likely, with the additional value of your home, you'll see an increase in your property tax bill, only because your assessment went up. From that information, the board has made a plan moving forward with the budget information that was provided. So when planning the 23-24 budget, the board has made a commitment to ensure schools and departments are operating efficiently. Some items considered is to continue to obtain Efficiency Manitoba grants to install LED lighting upgrades. Also review buying group options for regular operations, operation purchases such as tires and paper. They're also going to review tendering practices to ensure it's both effective and efficient. Review service contracts to determine which service could be done in-house. The impact of trying to find an efficiency, the board would like to try and implement efficiencies as soon as possible. So their intention is to take a look at some schools, do some school tours, and get a hands-on at areas where they can find efficiencies and start implementing them even before this budget is implemented, before our new fiscal period. And that brings us to the end of our budget presentation, and if anybody has questions.
Thanks, Jody. Jody, I'm going to try to summarize in Paul Magnon's simple mind, just for people out here as well. We are we are basically, you talked about the money that the province was giving to us. You also talked to about the money that the province basically is taking away from us in an equalization of $850,000, and that's going out to other school divisions. At the end of the day, we saw a need, Kathy brought a need to us about adding 2 teachers to our school division. If we didn't add 2 teachers to our school division, we would still need to add 2 teachers to certain schools. If we don't add teachers overall to the, what was the number that we said we have?
391.
Good. So if we don't go from 391 to 393, we are going to reduce in other schools. And those other schools, there's probably about 6 of them that are in small schools, and it's going to hurt some of those small schools. So we've decided to add teachers, 2.0 teachers to our budget. So we're looking at adding 2 teachers to our budget. The other adds that we talked about was cost of insurance, cost of interest on our credit line, and fuel primarily. Those are the adds that we've talked about around this table. With that, and then with the money that we're receiving, knowing that we can only go to the 2020 special levy, and it's going to drop our mill rate, so people are going to hear great that it's going to drop our mill rate, but right now we sit at about $392,000 deficit that this board needs to decide. So the budget isn't finalized, but we have just under $400,000 deficit. And so what we need to go and figure out what we're looking at going ahead and doing. Is that anybody want to add to that if somebody's listening online, or for Kathy that's here, any more than a simple summary as to what it is? Because we've talked about that. Does any other trustee want to add to that simple summary? Trustee Nichols?
I just want to mention that the 300 and some thousand that we are in deficit, we are not borrowing the money from the bank, because we do have a little bit of accumulated surplus from previous years, so we will be taking out the accumulated surplus. But the trouble is, you can't keep on taking money to pay for teachers out of accumulated surplus, because if that happens year after year, you won't have accumulated surplus. So we're okay this year, but we are looking in the future too. How are we going to work in the future?
So Trustee Nichols, thanks for pointing that out. And so that is the thought process right now. It's not decided yet, but you're right. We have about a $400,000 deficit. We could, you're right, we don't want to borrow any more money. We could go to our accumulated surplus. That's still a decision that the board is going to go ahead and make over the next, our budget decision is March the 7th, correct? So we still have some budget meetings to go ahead and take a look at and discuss. But that's what our presentation certainly here is tonight, so as to where we are. So I think that I'll stop, and if anybody has sent any questions into you, Jody, certainly go there. But I'll ask Kathy, do you have any questions that you would like to ask? If you do, you need to come to the microphone, Kath, so that other people can hear you. And so, Kath, what we're looking for is if you have questions. I'm not looking for a statement or a comment or whatever. I am looking for if you have questions.
Thank you. Just to clarify, because I'm not sure, like with the mill rates and the levy, so that is all determined by the provincial government. So when the funding is announced, there's also a direction to decrease those rates?
I'll try, Kath, and and I'm going to get some help here.
Carefully.
The province tells us, gives us parameters about what we can and cannot do with regard to property taxes. Let's put it that way. And so, do you know what? We are a growing school division. So growing school division with new builds and property assessments increasing. So from there, you know what, if everything stayed the same, if everything would stay the same, we're going to, the potential for us to receive more money because of more houses being built and because my house now, instead of costing $10, costs $20. However, the province has told us that we can only take so much of that. And we need to go back to the 2020 level and then at 2020, and that's the only amount that we can go ahead and take to get that. Hence, since we have growth, people are seeing the mill rate decrease, and so property taxes are decreasing because of the growth that we have. We have growth in two areas, with enrollment and with regard to new builds and assessment on the property tax side. But the province has said, school divisions, you can only do this. Is that fair, Kath? I mean, fair, Jody?
Yes.
Okay.
So Sunrise would not benefit necessarily from the increase in builds, the expanding communities, the additional students that are coming. There wouldn't be that equalization from the property tax side, correct?
I'll try this again. So I would say 5 years ago, Sunrise would have benefited, Sunrise did benefit because of that growth, because we would be able to go ahead and raise dollars based on a mill rate increase or decrease, and usually an increase, and then we would, because of builds or with assessment, we could do that. They have said no to us. The other part of your question, though, was part of our funding that the province talks about is an equalization funding. So the province knows there's 38 school divisions. Sunrise is doing well. Sunrise is going to lose some money because they're going to get money to other school divisions. So that is happening to us this year. And we met with them directly, and that's exactly what they told us. Did I miss anything? Did I tell any non-truths about that?
So money is being taken out of the Sunrise School Division budget to give to other school divisions?
No.
Okay.
The province has taken their pool of money, and they're basically turning around and saying, we're going to give you less, because that pool now of money, let's say it's $10, we're going to share that, we're going to share out of our pool, we're going to give you less because there's other school divisions that are in need, of more need than Sunrise. Fair? Yes. So that is happening to us. Do you see the smile on my face, Kath? Okay.
Sorry, I'm just, my background was healthcare, so the finance stuff sort of, it's sometimes difficult for me to wrap my brain around. But my understanding is that all of the costs that Sunrise is facing, like all of the operational costs, have increased.
Well, I think that, think about it as for our own homes. In our own homes, has fuel and gas gone up for us? Have the cost of food gone up for us? Does it cost more to buy a refrigerator than it did a year ago? All those things in our own homes, so we see as schools, when we go to buy pens and papers and computers and whatnot, all those things are going up. Have we built into the budget increases because of those things? No. So I think that part of it is, we do know where we said is that, yeah, you know what, we're budgeting for fuel, or we're considering budgeting for fuel. Our interest costs, our line of credit, we have to borrow money because the money that comes into us from the province and municipalities doesn't come in all at the same time, so we have to go borrow money. Well, I got a line of credit, and you know what, you're paying more on a line of credit, right? Our insurances are going up, and we are looking at potential, there's provincial bargaining, and you know what, there's potential salary that we need to consider. So, yeah, those pressures are on us. We have two choices. We don't budget for those things, and then how does it affect us? Or we try to budget. So right now we're budgeting, but we're still at a $390,000 deficit. And as Trustee Nichols said, we do have a surplus, accumulated surplus, because I think this board decided to continue to make sure that we had a rainy day fund, It's raining. Is that fair? Anyone else?
That's all the questions I have. Thank you very much.
So I think that do we have any other questions online? I'm not sure then if we've presented, again, from trustees, if people do ask questions, you can try to answer them as best you can, certainly individually. I know that this will help a little bit with regard to, we will put some information together so that you can have beside your phones if people go ahead and give a call. People may ask specific questions about mill rates and grants and whatever. You know what, you've got the best information certainly here sitting in front of you as to what it is, and it's out in the public now. This will be online as well, Jody. So this will be made available to the public for them to go ahead and see. Am I missing anything from anyone? Kath? Trustee Nicol?
Maybe you just want to mention that we're having another budget meeting on Tuesday to finalize it. So if there's any questions that you forgot, I guess, but didn't have time to ask, if there's a little bit of time to email Jody and we can look at those questions then.
So good point, Trustee Nicol, is that, again, if somebody wants to go ahead and continue, we do have a email to Jody Thiessen, Sunrise. It's on the presentation, it's on the website, certainly about going ahead and doing that. We have not voted on a budget. This is a draft budget as to where it goes, and the budget will be voted on March the 7th. Can there be changes? Absolutely, there can be changes right now, depending on what we hear from different people. But that is the draft as to where it is. Thank you, Trustee Dent.
I just wanted to add to slide 26 that there are other requests as well, not just the additional supports. So there's other resources and stuff, just so that the general public know that we were looking at other programming costs as well. So this isn't a necessarily a complete list, but it is for a support list that we were looking at for the school.
Trustee Dent, good point. We did receive a full list from all of our schools. So the principals did submit a full list, and Kathy did show that to all of our trustees. So we saw the requests from our trustees and from our departments. If one of the concerns that we certainly have, let's be very honest, you know what, we're not purchasing any buses. And we have the largest fleet in the province, and we travel 2.7 some million kilometers. And that's a concern. But if we want to buy a bus, our deficit goes bigger. Or, do you know what? I think that this board has been talking about what were some of the priorities. We wanted to make sure boots in the classrooms were a priority for us, and the supports that were there. So those are some of the concerns. But good point, Trustee Dent. There were others. Anybody else want to comment? Trustee Boytson?
Just a comment about the funding announcement. I remember when I heard it on the news the day that it came out about this astronomical 6.1% increase. And then once the numbers were plugged into our budget, found out that it was only meant a 1.2 for us. It was pretty disappointing.
So that's very interesting that you bring that up, because we did go and meet with the Minister of Education, and certainly he's one of the persons, one of the ministers, or one of the MLAs for our riding. And the conversation was, well, we're actually giving Sunrise a 3.5% increase. Help me if I'm saying this wrong, but yes, the province is giving us X amount of dollars, and we're getting that other percentage from the ratepayers that the province is saying is that allowing us to go to the 2020 levels. So that's where really the 3.6%, 3.5% increase is. So in the past they didn't talk that way, but now certainly they're talking, well, you can go and get to the 20 levels, and that's where the increase of the money is getting you. So yes, are we getting 1.2 and 2.4, from the tax, from the property taxes, and then from the province equivalent like to 3.6? Yes. However, we have also known what it's doing to us. We're sitting today at a $400,000 deficit. Did I answer that correctly? Okay, I did. Anyone else? Good point, though, Trustee Boytson, very good point. And we brought that up with the minister as to where we're going. And I'm going to go back to it again when we call it equalization. And equalization saying is that, well, we're going to take $850,000 away from you, and it's not necessarily from the question that Kathy asked, is it, from our budget? Well, they're taking it away. They're giving us less money because they're taking away $850,000. Yes. Anyone else? Trustee Rowland?
I wasn't sure if this is, we should give heads up to our families about the school supplies budget line that we had to axe this year, because that was approximately $300,000 expense that we have bought school supplies for students for the last 2 years, help families, but that would just put us a further $300,000 in deficit, so we are not able to provide that to families for the next school year, and I think that families should be prepared for that as well.
Trustee Rowland, that's a good point. Again, it's still a draft budget, but thanks for reminding us all. There was that request about going ahead and doing it. I think that we're all pretty proud of us going ahead and doing that. And as of right now, it's not in the budget. Will that happen come March the 7th? Well, if you add $400,000 to $300,000, that's $700,000 deficit as to where you are. And what can you and cannot do. I know that there's a number of people around this room that think that that's important. However, where do we stand? Good point. Thanks for bringing that up.
Yes, I mean, there's a chance we do have the surplus we could dip in and have some modified version of a school supply. That is something we'll have to decide. And if we had any public feedback on that, it would really guide us for our next meeting to know if that is the way we would like to go as a division, as a community. But currently, it's not included in this budget.
Yeah, good point. Thank you. Trustee Dent?
I was just wondering if you wanted to take a minute and provide a little bit more context for the public that are watching. So if we're talking about buying school supplies and running a deficit of $700,000, put that into context maybe for the general public, what that looks like for support. So how many teachers would have to be reduced to offset that cost if that was the direction that we were going to go, or how many EAs?
Good one. Want to try?
Again, generally we would look at that if we're saying 300,000 for school supplies, that would equal 3 teachers. So we would have to be able to take 3 teachers out to be able to buy those school supplies. I'm not sure what the EA conversion is. Do you have a?
Yeah, 1 teacher is equivalent to roughly a little under 3 EAs.
Let's talk dollars and cents. Let's not talk about people, that kind of thing. But yes, budget. But I think that what your relatively is $100,000 roughly for a teacher, and that's all in. So it's not, teachers aren't all making $100,000 that are walking. So let's be very careful of that. But with all the costs that are there, that's that. So I think what you're saying is that if are we taking money out of our accumulated surplus? Maybe, but if we weren't, relative speaking, $300,000, 3 less teachers. Anyone else? Trustee Smith?
I was wondering, a few years ago, the teachers would purchase the supplies, and then the family would be able to give a check or cash. It was $40, $50. I think that would be more manageable for families, because I know if I go with my kids, it costs me over $300 per kid, and the $50 is a lot more manageable. I'm wondering if we could work that in somehow.
Yeah, it's a great question. I think before we brought in the school supply, funding, that was exactly how some of our schools had done things. That depends entirely upon, teachers and schools being able to fit that in and do that, and the needs of their community. So that is something that schools will look at, but whether that will be across the board, I'm not sure that will be an across the board offering.
Trustee Boytson?
Can you maybe just talk, because I don't know the exact numbers, of what an allowable accumulated surplus is for school boards and where we're at with that?
There we go. Yeah, so the school divisions are allowed to carry over accumulated surplus. It's about 3 to 4% of the budget of that year. So with our budget roughly at 72 million, 74 million, we can have an accumulated surplus just above or around $2.2 million. That's the maximum we can carry in accumulated surplus. If we had too much, we'd have to be looking at utilizing it. Other than that, right now our accumulated surplus pot is about 1.6 million.
But we have accumulated surplus for a rainy day. Boilers go in schools. We have buses break down where we have to buy new buses. A motor goes in a bus where we have to go ahead and do something. It accumulated surplus authority needs to come from the 9 trustees to go ahead and spend it. And you, just like any household, do you want to have a little bit of a budget to be able to go ahead and have a rainy day in case there's something that's going on, and the school division needs to go ahead and do that. And we've been sitting around that, so that's a great opportunity for us. If it needs to get used, you know what? There's been some great motions that have come out of here for us to go ahead and use that for some special things. You just can't budget, as what Trustee Nichols said, you cannot use accumulated surplus to have a budget that's something that's there for on an ongoing basis. It's a one-time thing, but it's not there next year. And if you budget for that, that's there. So, anyone else? Okay, if there's no other questions, then I think that we're done. I think as what we said is that we have another budget meeting next Tuesday. And I think as Trustee Rowland reminded the public that's out there that it's going to listen, is that if you have any suggestions or comments, reach out to your local trustee, reach out to send a comment in to Jody, and we get together next Tuesday to make some further discussions around budget. You're right, it's not, the discussion isn't when we pass the budget, it certainly will, but good point. Have I missed anything from anybody around the room? Trustee Rowland, anything? Rowland, Trustee Reed, Trustee Smith, Trustee Dent, Trustee Nichol, Trustee Boytson, Trustee Harris, Senior Admin? Go ahead.
I just wanted to say thank you to both the senior admin team for some extraordinarily long hours and super fun times together in a closed room where I would stand in front of the door. So thank you for that and still talking to me. And to this board who had some very rich and authentic and difficult conversations around the things that were on the table. It's hard work and very appreciated that people are coming at that hard work from a very authentic place of trying to do well by our schools and our communities.
Agree with you totally, Kath, but on the other hand, our work isn't done yet. We're still looking at a budget of $400,000, and what do we do with the $400,000? But that's lay it out there. Certainly, let people go ahead and take a look at it. We'd love to get comments back from people and help. But that's where we are. We'll make a decision. We'll have some more discussions next Tuesday. Make a decision on March the 7th. Our budget meeting's adjourned. Thanks very much.